You know what?
What?
We're in trouble.
Today's sci-fi horror film features a small town in Iowa that gets stricken with a virus that outspreads and causes an epidemic. The film opens with the scenes of a small town named Ogden Marsh, which is afflicted with fire. Scenes shift 2 days earlier to find out what caused the town to catch fire. Brace yourselves, as things are about to get real disastrous. 2 days before the city turned into dust, a doctor named Judy is shown. While giving duty at the clinic, Judy's assistant, Becca, comes and asks for the day off because she has to go to a baseball game with her boyfriend, Scotty. Judy's husband, David, is a town sheriff who's also at the baseball game. David is accompanied by his deputy, Russell. As everyone's enjoying the game, a lunatic shows up, threatening the baseball players. Russell spots Rory Hamill, a resident, entering the outfield holding a shotgun. The lunatic looks stiff and expressionless, as if he's high on meth. The sheriff is forced to shoot and kill the unresponsive Rory. The sheriff and his deputy send Rory's dead body for autopsy. Regretting that he's killed someone, the sheriff goes to Rory's funeral and meets his wife and boy, who are not pleased with the sheriff's visit. The sheriff explains his point of view to Rory's family. He says that he had to shoot Rory because he was drunk and about to pull the trigger of a shotgun. Rory's wife slaps the sheriff and tells him her husband has been clean for the past 2 years. That night, David has trouble sleeping because of the guilt. The sheriff saved lives. Feeling guilty should be the least of all the stuff. The next day, David and his deputy are shocked to see the autopsy reports because they show 0% of alcohol consumption. Finding it extremely suspicious and to find the cause of Rory's unresponsive behavior, David decides to head back to the baseball court and see if he can find some dirt. There, he sees a guy sitting alone in the audience. Thinking of how he got inside the place, he goes near him and tries to talk to him. The guy goes by the name Ben, who doesn't respond to any of David's questions. The sheriff is intelligent, he must join the dots. In the next scene, the freaky loner from the baseball court is seen visiting David's wife's community hospital. In the hospital, Rory's wife discusses her husband's behavioral pattern, which is super abnormal. Judy checks the unresponsive man's blood pressure. While checking, she also notices a change in the man's actions. The man isn't moving, blinking, or talking like a normal expressive person. It's astonishing how the doctor isn't considering the man a zombie already. However, the man doesn't cause any harm. With mild antibiotics, the doctor sends the infected man home with his wife and toddler. That night, the wife and her toddler hear voices from outside. They peek out of the window and get shocked to see the man of their house working alone on the farm. The wife tells her kid to stay inside the home while she goes out to check on her husband. By the time she reaches outside, her husband is gone. She tries to look for her husband, but she is forced to run back inside because of the screams she hears from her boy. Hearing your loved ones screaming or knowing they're in danger is the worst feeling anyone could imagine. On getting home, she finds her baby boy shivering in dread. The boy claims that his dad has a knife in his hand and is trying to kill him. The wife takes the kid and hides in the closet. Ben, who has lost his senses and memory, looks for his family while still holding a knife in his hand. When he finds his family locked inside the closet, he squirts petrol all over the place and sets his house on fire. Poor wife and her innocent baby die in the fire. David and deputy arrest the man and put him in the locker. The man deserved to be hanged for burning his own family. After that, David and his wife Judy, the community doctor, begin to notice other town residents exhibiting the similar bizarre behavior. It almost seems as if the townspeople are turning into zombies. While resting in the lockup, Ben gives a dead stare to the deputy, who figures out that he's been stared down by Rory the same way. At the same time, David and his deputy are reported by the local hunters through call. They report that they found a soldier's dead body in the local river. David arrives with the town's medical examiner, who claims the body is of a plane pilot that's been decaying in the river for at least a week. Using his full intellect, he depicts that there must have been a plane crash that the government's hiding from locals, and where there are pilots, there must be a crashed plane too. While investigating the discovery of the pilot's body in the swamp, he and the deputy discover a cargo plane submerged under the water. The two instantly figure out that the water has been contaminated due to the toxic fumes coming out of the broken plane. The sheriff should take measures before something worse happens. Worried for their townspeople, David and the deputy go to the town's mayor and ask him to cut the community water supply due to being contaminated. The mayor, however, doesn't take their concerns seriously and tells them to bugger off. Sticking to their theory, David and the deputy decide to cut the water supply on their own. The sheriff heads back to town to check up on his people, but is shocked to see the town empty. internet and phone services are down. He outs that all means of communication have been cut from their town. This suggests there are forces out there that are aware of the danger and are cutting off the cursed town to save the rest of the world. Puzzled to make the next move, he heads toward the medical examiner to get the reports but ends up nearly getting his face sliced by the doctor, who has become a victim of the virus. He uses his buzzsaw to attack David and slice his face off, but David, in defense, uses the buzzsaw against the doctor and kills him. As blood stains the floor tiles, he sits back and becomes disturbed to see the brutally murdered doctor. Deputy comes and helps him get out of the place and reach home safely. The sheriff is in a state of shock because he can predict the doom of his town already. As soon as he reaches home, he hugs his wife and tells her to leave the town and stay at her mother's place for a while because the town's situation doesn't seem too good right now. That evening, soldiers wearing hazard material suits arrive to take all residents to quarantine at the high school. The sheriff and his wife are also escorted out of their place and put in a van. The two notice other townspeople sitting in the van too. The military somehow manages to take the majority of the town into quarantine. Everyone is examined for symptoms of infection. They check people's temperature. People with high temperatures are immediately separated from their families and get taken away by the soldiers. This situation brings out the psychological horror, which gets too disturbing. Unfortunately, the story takes a sad turn when Judy does not pass the examination and is separated from the sheriff. She explains her fever is due to pregnancy, but is sedated anyway. She wakes strapped to a gurney as the perimeter of the facility is breached by the infected. The military personnel evacuate, leaving Judy and others behind. Sheriff David is nearing evacuation but escapes and rejoins his deputy, Russell. They rescue Judy and her medical assistant, Becca, from an infected citizen who is killing those in the infirmary. After that, Sheriff David, his wife Judy, Deputy Russell, and the assistant Becca make their way out of town on foot, unable to find a working vehicle. They encounter Becca's boyfriend, Scotty McGregor, when they pass through his farm. Soldiers raid the farm, shoot Scotty and his mother, and burn the bodies. The group finds a broken patrol car which they eventually fix and hit the road. As they've traveled a few miles, they are spotted by an attack helicopter and dragged into a car wash for cover. Infected car wash employees attack and kill Becca, and the helicopter destroys the car. This is an unforgettable tragedy that's going to cling to your brain for a while. On foot, Russell disables a passing government SUV with a police spike strip. The driver, presumably a government agent Glenn, reveals the cargo plane contained Trixie, a biological weapon that has contaminated the water supply and is very contagious. Enraged, Russell shoots the driver and threatens Judy and David. When confronted about his behavior, Russell realizes he is infected and after being disarmed, but he begs to go on with Judy and David and dies later on while distracting soldiers at a road blockade so that Judy and David can sneak past. David and his doctor wife are legitimate survivors. At nightfall, David and Judy arrive at a truck stop to search for a vehicle, discovering the military also executed all those who were evacuated from the town. Fending off 3 infected people who appear out of nowhere, they escape in a semi-truck. Soon after that, Ogden Marsh is destroyed in a huge nuclear explosion as they flee, and their truck flips in the passing shockwave. As the couple walk towards Cedar Rapids, a view from a military satellite highlights the city, and the words "Initiate Containment Protocol" appear, signifying another containment attempt since David and Judy are unknowingly infected by the Trixie virus. So this is what's contaminated and killed the whole town. In the closing credits, a news clip from Cedar Rapids Channel 9 is shown in which the newscaster reports a huge explosion originating from the Dacon petrochemical plant started a massive fire in Ogden Marsh, with eyewitness reports of a 400-foot fireball that lit up the sky. He goes on to report a second explosion at a nearby truck fueling station, alluding to the truck stop. He says a perimeter has been set and civilians are not being allowed into the area. After that, the news clip cuts to a soldier with his rifle brandished, then to a snarling crazy, and finally simply the words "signal lost," strongly implying that the much larger city of Cedar Rapids was infected after the events of the film. Falling in the sci-fi horror category, Crazies is one of the eeriest, suspenseful, and exceptional zombie thrillers that stand out in the horde of zombie plagues. This film is a striking and vicious thriller that belongs at the top of any zombie list. The Crazies isn't a typical zombie film, as the infected don't become mindless shamblers, but they also begin to hunt their families and become emotionless. The suspense starts slow in the early minutes of the film, but consistently builds to fevered anxiety as the military attempts to quarantine the outbreak, trapping the survivors inside with the crazed infected. If you're a fan of zombies but at the same time have trouble watching the same concept and zombie stereotypes, you should watch Crazies because it reveals a different side of zombies. Thanks for watching another Essential Recap. Please like and subscribe, and leave a comment what you'd like to see next.